Hi, welcome to the Fix Your Gut live stream. My name is Jason Hooper, and we're here live with John Brissom.
Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing well.
We're going to be doing a show today about Alzheimer's disease, and we're going to kick it off with a Q&A. If you're watching this live, we're going to try to do an interactive component to it. We are starting an IRC channel to where you can log on live to our IRC group and you can interact with us and ask questions live. So you have to log on to the IRC net Miami server, and the channel is #FixYourGut, and the password is 21 for episode 21. And we'll change the password for each episode. And I'll keep making announcements as we go through the show. That way you know how to access the online chat. So if John and I are talking about something and it's not clear and you want some clarification, or if you have a question while we're talking about stuff, we'll glance over at the chat every once in a while and we'll try to address you and make it more interactive. Try to do something that just listening to the YouTube channel wouldn't necessarily get you. But we've got a few questions in the queue for a Q&A that have come up. Again, if you've got questions for the Q&A, contact us through fixyourgut.com. Just send us an email through the contact form and just let us know that you have a question for the show. The first question is about Dr. Ohira's probiotic soap. I want to know our opinions on that. So it's DROHHIRA probiotics.com, all one word, no spaces, if you want more information on it. It retails for $9.49 per bar, or you can get 3 bars for $26.22. So it's not a cheap product by any means. And it contains, it's like 95% soap, more or less, and 4% of that is lactic acid bacteria extract. And it contains, humidifying agent and some water.
It's like an extract of natural wild growing plants that have been fermented.
Yeah, it is. I guess I've never tried this stuff. I've heard about it for a while, and the people who I've talked to that have used it pretty much say that it's it's good soap, but that it's not anything magical. I am skeptical that it contains any live probiotics in that format. If you go back and listen to the episode with Dr. Larry Weiss, you'll hear him talk about how the formation of soap, making a fatty sodium product, that these detergents, they break down the cell walls of bacteria. So it kills a lot of bacteria on your skin when you use it. So I'm kind of skeptical that when you mix the probiotic bacteria into the soap during manufacture and even during use, that they're surviving the product, and they're surviving that process. Also, it's using a lactic acid bacterial strain, which to me is pretty ridiculous, because obviously on your skin you're in an aerobic environment because it's exposed to the air. I mean, unless you're like a deep sea diver or something. I don't know, like you're I mean, I don't really know the conditions involved to where your skin would be anaerobic, but it just seems like, it just doesn't seem like a great product to me. I've never tried it.
I don't see anything special.
I think it's really expensive, and I don't know. They might have a money back guarantee. I wouldn't get it unless they did.
I mean, as far as it being pure soap, I mean, it doesn't have really horrible ingredients or anything like that compared to your standard commercial soap that you can buy $2 at Walmart. But is it really going to, add beneficial microflora to your skin?
What's that natural soap company that you use?
Me?
Yeah.
Dr. Bronner's, but even that can be extraordinarily harsh.
Okay.
But I mean, it's what I use. I dilute it with water, of course. But it's just mixture of organic saponified oils and vitamin E and a little bit of citric acid for an acidity regulator. You know,
I think with that though, you can get like their mess ups or whatever. Like they have like a box of soap that didn't quite come out right, or like pieces of soap that didn't quite. They're not in the nice brick form, and you can get it fairly cheaply that way. But
I just used Dr. Bronner's because it took care of my tinea versicolor, the yeast overgrowth I had on my skin. Didn't like it very much.
yeah, why don't you
So
just use coconut oil?
I don't know. I just didn't like the acidity of the soap and the different oils.
Okay. Our next question is for John. What are your opinions on aromatherapy?
Well, there's not a lot of scientific basis on aromatherapy. That doesn't mean that it's completely hogwash. But I don't think for a lot of people it's going to harm them. I think you might see benefits, but I don't think you're going to see huge benefits that most people see. I mean, it's hard to tell, if anybody true benefit to it. With using it in a lot of stuff. I mean, we do know, for example, that there are certain smells that the human nose reacts to very strongly. Sorry, you guys, my daughter in the background.
You got to invest in some Benadryl, man.
Yeah, it's gonna knock them out at night. As far as aromatherapy, coffee, for example, coffee seems to be one of the strongest scents that the human nose reacts to. Okay, so some people have said that when you smell coffee, it automatically starts a bile release within the stomach. Well, not within the stomach, within the duodenum, should I say? Smelling food, cooked food, for example, if I smell cooked bacon or you think about it, digestion and MC function already increases. So just for that alone, why can't we think that smelling certain smells, for example, might have differing effects on the body? They studied lemon in Japan and found that it does seem to reduce stress markers in rats. Now, whether or not the smell of lemon does anything to human beings or not, that's up for debate. We do know that essential oils, of course, do have properties when put on the skin or taken internally. But breathing them in, do they have any really effect? I mean, the only thing I can really think of is Vicks Vapor Rub. I wouldn't suggest it because of the petroleum base. I'd get a more natural version, and there are some out there. But the smelling of menthol and camphor and eucalyptus does help reduce congestion and soothe the lungs if you put the vapor rub on your chest. And breathing in menthol can, reduce congestion and even lung bronchospasms. So I would say that if you're interested in smelling a scent, like for example, like I know a lot of people talk about lavender for sleep. Look into it, see if there's any basis. There's not any basis, and you still want to try it anyway. Use it. My biggest concern is make sure you get it as pure as possible, because a lot of these bases that they use, for the essential oils and stuff like that, for aromatherapy, some of the oils that they use as an emulsifier, like some of the coconut oils or palm oils or stuff like that. You just want to make sure that they use a good oil for the base, if there's any at all, unless you're using like a diffuser where you wouldn't need any oil, except for the essential oil itself. But other than that, is there really any basis to it? Not really. Is it going to harm you? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm concerned with some of the paraffin products.
Well, those are candles, though. That's
yeah.
A little bit, yeah. We're not talking about
like
therapy.
If you're getting like a candle, like a menthol candle, that's going to be terrible for you. So,
well, yeah, I'm talking
it'd
about
be much safer to just buy a pack of menthol lights.
Yeah, I was just talking about using like a diffuser of the essential oil or something like that, not necessarily.
You mean like like e-cigarettes?
No, like
do they make those in menthol flavor?
You're funny. You never seen any of those essential oil diffusers that they have, where they have
like
a warming? Like a warming plate, yeah, stuff like that.
I know that whenever somebody's selling Scentsy, like they always show up at your house, and
They do.
we
But I'm
always
talking about like,
buy stuff. I don't know. Like I wish people would say like, hey, can you give me $5, instead of buying stuff we really don't want.
yeah, no. Look, candles, yeah, you want to stay away from the paraffin waxes. What about the soy waxes? Like, you wanted to make sure that you're using a wood wick. I mean, if you want to use candles, I wasn't really thinking candles for aromatherapy. I was thinking more diffusers and stuff like that, and warming plates and stuff. But if you're really using a candle, just stay away from paraffin and just use wood wicks. And beeswax candles would probably be better than the soy candle, a pure beeswax candle with organic essential oils, but those would be extraordinarily costly. So
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a dude. I'm not into candles, man.
I used to be a
I'm
little
into
bit,
monster
but
trucks and Mountain Dew.
I don't burn them anymore. So, and I would suggest it might not be a good idea to burn incense. It's
Hey, did you
not
catch the
clean as
wrestling last night?
Of course, I did. I love wrestling. Monday Night Raw, son. I'm from the South. What are you talking about?
Yesterday was Tuesday.
Oh, it was. I'm a day behind. I meant Monday. Hey, Sting wrestling on Monday Night Raw for the first time ever was excellent. So,
like Sting from Genesis.
Sting from WCW, smartass.
I seriously don't know anything about wrestling.
Okay. But yeah, so
I don't know. Maybe I thought Sting was trying to reboot his career or something. Like, honestly,
I think he's a little too old to wrestle.
I mean, how old do you have to be to hit a referee with a folding chair?
I guess not that old. I mean, Ric Flair did it into his late 60s.
Is that still a bit? Do they still do that?
Yes, they still do that.
Nice. All right. Well, here's my take on aromatherapy, and this is just purely anecdotal, so take it or leave it. But if you open up a pack of crayons, or the next time you're in the grocery store or something, if they sell other things besides groceries, like if they sell crayons, just go by the aisle and just pick up a pack of crayons and smell it and see if it doesn't bring back memories. Because there's some kind of connection between your olfactory sense and memory.
There is a very strong one.
And so I think that you could sort of use that as a hack. Like if you're studying for a test and you use peppermint oil as like an aromatherapy mechanism, or even, I don't know, like peppermint, some kind of oral peppermint chew or something. I'm not sure. And then you go and take the test and you recreate that environment. It'll bring back those memories. That might be a way to hack your studying. I don't know. That's all I got.
It's not really scientifically validated.
Yeah, I guess not, but you can try it.
Do they make candles that smell like grandma's apple pie?
I don't know anything about candles.
All right, go with the next question.
All right, let me check. Hold on. All right, then the next question is for me. What's up with essential oils? So kind of on the same vein. I'm not really sure why they're called essential oils.
Because they are very essential in our everyday lives.
Are you sure?
No, I mean, go ahead. You answer this question. I got a lot to say about this one. I have more to say about this one than aromatherapy. So.
All right. Well, I mean, like, I don't know. I know like essential amino acids are essential because.
Okay, they're not essential. Okay,
so we die.
They have strong purposes. Okay, so.
Well, there are. I think there are some good essential oils and there are some gimmicky ones. I think for the antimicrobial standpoint, there are some really good ones out there. I like Thymol. I like
tea tree.
I'm not a fan. It carries a much higher toxic load.
That is correct. You are correct about that. It does even more than Thymol, but it still has antibacterial effects and, of course, needs to be strongly diluted and only used on the skin.
Yeah, you mentioned menthol already.
Menthol does, of course.
Camphor.
What about carvacciol, which is oil of oregano, which technically would be one?
Yeah, actually, oregano also has Thymol in it as well.
That is correct.
And that's more of an active antimicrobial. It's more of a mild, like when it's paired, it's more mild. It's not quite as harsh.
What about cinnamon oil?
Yeah, that's an interesting one too.
Cinnamon oil has strong antibacterial effects in the
It
gut.
does, and it has other genetic implications too.
Lower reduction of blood sugar, of blood
Yeah.
glucose levels.
Yeah, well, I think that's actually a protein that's in the cinnamon. I'm not sure that it's actually the oil, but I could be wrong.
What about orange oil?
Like D-limonene, I'm a huge fan of.
Yep, I am too.
I think it's really good and non-toxic to humans. I think that so basically, again, to go back to what Dr. Weiss was saying, like how does nature respond to the problem? Like when a plant in nature gets an infection, how does it respond to it? It doesn't like go to the pharmacy and get a bunch of antibiotics and go nuts. It creates its own terpenes. All of these things we're talking about are actually terpenes.
Correct.
Most of them are monoterpenes. And like when the herb thyme gets hurt, it produces thymol, which is a terpene, and it makes it so that bacteria can't survive and infect the plant and get it sick, or fungus or whatever. So if we use this instead of some of the man-made chemicals, we use natural chemicals. There's a lot fewer. It's a lot less toxic to people because of like the bromines that are.
Well, it depends on what, there are some limits with using, strong thymol, for example, or, and stuff. I mean, there are limits, there are toxicities associated with these, but you are correct. It would be less than, let's say, the use of amyclotoxin B for fungal infections.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not all of them are 100% non-toxic, but the amount that it would take to kill you or like the lethal dose, the LD50 of these are like percentages, like 0.001 percentages of, like Lysol, and a lot of the household cleaners that we use, or like some of like hand sanitizers, really popular. It's been popular for years. That's
of course
like
ethanol.
Straight up ethanol.
Yeah.
That's got a pretty low LD50.
But I mean, what about I mean, yeah, when we're talking about essential oils, like what are we talking about? Are we talking about like plant components and stuff like that, or what?
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out. Like,
because couldn't alkaloids be considered it too under if you want to get really technical?
I think it just. I'm not really sure that
so nicotine.
Oil, I'm arguing from the beginning that essential oil is not a scientific classification of chemicals.
Correct.
You'd be talking about monoterpenes. We should call it that, but it's not as marketable because it doesn't sound as essential.
But I mean, like monoterpenes, for example, most plants do have benefits. We just don't know all of the benefits of the terpenes yet. We only know benefits of some of them. And they do have to have most have to have a direct effect on the mammalian, or human body, so.
Yeah. You should start a supplement company. You're like, we don't know all the effects of this yet, but it's good.
That's majority of the supplements.
And to prove it to you how good it is, we're going to make it cost $6,000.
That's the majority of the supplements, and that's the majority of the medicine. So it's just a guessing game and hope it works. I'm sad to say that, but it's true.
All right, well, let's get on with the show. Again, to remind our live viewers that are watching the live stream, we do have an IRC channel open right now. So open up your favorite IRC client from the 90s, and you're going to want to go to IRC.net. And if you want to go to their hosting website, IRC.net, at eversybil.com. We're on the Miami server. And our channel is #FixYourGut. The password is 21. So if you want to hop on that channel, we will be taking questions and you can comment and we will interact with you as we're talking to make this a unique experience that isn't anywhere else on the interwebs right now. So let's get into our Alzheimer's segment. Alzheimer's is probably one of the worst diseases out there, and a lot of people are afraid of it because that would be a terrible way to go, is just to lose your mind up until the end. A lot of people have had loved ones suffer from Alzheimer's, and there's not a lot known about Alzheimer's, which is, I guess, the scariest thing. And right off the bat, people want to know how they can protect themselves from getting Alzheimer's, and they want to know if Alzheimer's, I guess the other thing that always comes up is Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes, or diabetes of the brain? And this is like the type 3 diabetes. The first time I saw this was in a 2005 paper.
Yeah.
Where they basically just asked the same question: is Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes of the brain? What do you think about that, John?
I would definitely agree that the brain is unable to properly use glucose as a fuel. Now the question is where does it come from?
Where does the
insulin issues and everything like that? I mean, we'll get to talk a lot about it later, but does it originally derive from gut issues? What's the aluminum connection to it? Why do MCT oil and ketones seem to greatly improve Alzheimer's patients' lives? And stuff like that. There has to be a connection of why someone gets this sick in the first place, especially the people with Alzheimer's, strangely, that were never diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic beforehand.
Well, that's interesting too, and I'll come back to that. But okay, so to answer the first part of your question, why are we seeing metabolic problems in the brain? Well, it's because we see insulin resistance occurring at that level that we can measure, and we also see the improper usage of insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1, in the brain. And so that's what spawned this paper written by the University of Rhode Island, and I'm sorry, it was Brown at the Rhode Island Medical, from the Department of Pathology and Medicine, Rhode Island Hospital and Brown Medical School came out with this paper where they're asking this question. They weren't saying that it is, they were just saying, look, we're seeing that there is insulin sensitivity going on in the brain, and we're also seeing that IGF-1 signaling is not working properly.
But I mean, doesn't that make sense that that's what it is, though?
Well, I don't think so.
Okay, I want to know why, because I think that has something. I would blame leaky gut, but then again, of course, it's fixed your gut. You're going to blame leaky gut on anything. So.
Well, yeah, I think that. I think that LPS has a lot to do with it.
I mean, endotoxins, maybe some issues with circadian rhythm going on and stuff like that, excess inflammation within the body.
Yeah. But let me just go back to this. So when you actually so if you look at type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes, what is the actual problem and what is the common medical solution? Type 2 diabetes, someone's diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. How do they diagnose that? They don't diagnose it by looking at insulin secretion. They don't diagnose it by looking at insulin growth factors. How do they measure? How do they do a test? How do they screen you for diabetes?
Well, there's different types. There's checking fasting blood glucose over a period of time. There's hemoglobin A1C, which might be inaccurate depending on how long your red blood cells function in the body without being renewed. Chris Kresser has talked about that hemoglobin A1C might not be the best method of diabetes because of that, because it's inaccurate depending on person to person, because it pretty much measures how long blood glucose has stayed within the cells, as a long-term map to determine an average of about how long it is. So depending on person to person, it's different. So there's also glucose loading test, which they usually do for pregnancy, or they give you a whole bunch of glucose on an empty stomach and then measure postprandial glucose testing, to see how your body reacts to the high the amount of glucose, and see whether proper insulin response to bring the blood glucose back down to normal levels. So there's different testing methods to determine if one is diabetic or not.
Yeah, and so they determine if you are diabetic, and then how do they treat it?
Most of the time with medicine. If you're type 1, of course, it requires insulin.
Well, obviously medicine. Okay, so insulin and possibly metformin, which is a sugar reducer, right?
Well, it stops glycogen.
Okay, so when you have somebody with Alzheimer's and you inject their brain with insulin, they should get better, right?
Has that been done?
Yeah, it has been done. And there's no positive results from it at all. And they also...
Was that because their brain was having issues with using it properly, even if they were injecting it?
Yeah, that's exactly why. Because they're insulin resistant. And they also did the same thing with IGF-1. No results. They did it in vivo, and they also did it in a petri dish. They also did some calcium channel. Like there's a way that they can... there's a way in vitro that they can stimulate neurons by basically by injecting calcium into the cell, like overstimulating the calcium channel. And they found out that the calcium channel was like fried in these cells affected by Alzheimer's. But anyway, just getting back to it, sugar does not seem to be an issue in the Alzheimer's brain. Like we do see some biosynthetic issues with insulin sensitivity, and we see some IGF-1 stuff. But you have to understand that the common ages that most people are diagnosed with Alzheimer's also correlate with the adult onset type 2 diabetes. 37% of Westerners develop type 2 diabetes by the time they're 60. So that may just be formation of type 2 diabetes anyway, may not have anything to do with their Alzheimer's.
So go back to the testing methods for diabetes. Which one do you think would be the most accurate? I know Chris Kresser also recommends a fructosamine test, which would measure how much the body produces certain enzyme to break down advanced glycation end products, and he also considers using that for determining of diabetes. I mean, would be the best one for someone to be tested, just to do fasting and postprandial glucose tests every so often to determine, whether or not someone's diabetic or not. It would be over a period of time. It just wouldn't be one test, right?
Yeah, I think you need to go to an endocrinologist and not just, your regular healthcare physician. I need to go to somebody who can take basically they can take a cellular history of what's going on with your cells. Like Kresser says, it's not 100% accurate, but it's a good diagnostic. Well, it's good to get
blood glucose testing is a lot more accurate than H1C, hemoglobin A1C, just because
if you do it right.
Correct. Just because of the lifespan of red blood cells differs between person to person. If you're anemic, especially hemolytic anemia, it's not going to be an accurate test.
Well, I mean, you could do it at home. Most of the same tests that they do there, you can do at home.
Oh, yeah.
Basically,
the blood glucose.
A base mark with your blood glucose meter, and then drink 120 grams of glucose, and then wait an hour and do it again, and measure the result, and then wait another hour and do it again and measure the result at 2 hours. So but at the doctor's office, they usually bypass the 1 hour and they just go straight to the 2 hour, which I think is a mistake.
Correct, I do too.
And if you're going to get it done at the doctor's office, also get the insulin done too. Like, make sure that your insulin output is being measured as well, or else it's a waste. You could have just done the same thing at home.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're kind of getting off track of the Alzheimer's thing. Can Alzheimer's be solved by diet? I think yes and no. I think that the reason why switching over to a high-fat diet is going to help with Alzheimer's is because you have more metabolic energy.
Correct.
And you end up with all the issues of the ischemia and the hypoxia in the brain is because the mitochondria in the brain are just not functioning well. And anything that you can do to ramp up mitochondrial function, like producing ketones, MCTs, that kind of thing, that's going to help. But the easiest thing to do is prevent the damage from happening in the first place. So you brought up aluminum, and one of the things that drives me crazy is when people talk about aluminum antiperspirants.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's gonna cause Alzheimer's, because they find aluminum in the brains of people with Alzheimer's.
But how's it going to get there through the pores?
Well, I don't know. I mean, even if it does, why does that matter? Because they just have a complete lack of understanding of what's happening.
The problem is that it's the blood-brain barrier allows excess amount of aluminum into the brain. It's not necessarily aluminum's fault.
Right. Yeah. The next time Jason Miller's on the show,
Not saying
I'll talk
aluminum's
to him
good.
about this, because Jason Miller, he's like a master welder, and a welder will know that if you're working with aluminum, you have to do it in an oxygen-free environment. Otherwise, the aluminum will adhere to the oxygen and it just won't work right. So what happens in the brain is you have areas of the brain that are hypoxic, which means there's not oxygen getting parts of the brain, which is causing the ischemia. Well, the oxygen deposits are left there because there's no oxygen to carry the aluminum out. Okay, the aluminum is not the cause of the problem, it's the result of the problem. Does that make sense? So you could just chug like colloidal aluminum that you made.
Well, aluminum is poorly absorbed through the digestive tract anyway, so
Well, take it IV. I don't know. It's not gonna make a darn.
I'm not saying you should cook on aluminum foil, don't get me wrong, but
there is a little bit of aluminum in some vaccines.
Correct. But my
my
question is, when we're talking about mitochondria and epoxy and all that other, does that explain the reason why melatonin is reduced in Alzheimer's patients and also what they call sundowners or sundown dementia, is because circadian rhythm is just so messed up in a lot of patients with Alzheimer's?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely not good. When your circadian rhythm's messed up, that creates the mitochondrial problems.
Correct.
But, and there's maybe a lot of things that add up, but LPS, which is an endotoxin created by bacteria, that wrecks the brain.
Yes, it does.
And that is something like you say, okay, well, there's, circadian problems and there's EMF problems. And the thing is, there's just not a lot of research being done on that at this point. There's a little bit, but I mean, we're going to have to get test subjects to come in and be like, all right, we're going to fry your brain with radio waves and, see what happens. It's hard to do that kind of research because of ethics, and, Dr. Menenga is gone.
It's about Dr. Mengele.
What's his name? The World War II guy? Mengele?
Joseph Mengele.
Okay, my bad. So he's, there's not like crazy people doing like bizarre experiments anymore. So we can do it on rats and see what's going on a little bit and try to run rats under a CAT scan and see what's happening, but with long-term effects. How long do rats live?
Rats aren't humans, so
they're not. Oh yeah, you're right. Well, what about Master Splinter?
He's a little bit humanoid, but still a rat.
Would it be ethical to conduct brain experiments on Master Splinter?
I would suggest if we were going to do it, then we should do it on apes or pigs.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to do it on apes
or dolphins.
They're going to get all over us for that. Um, yeah, like intentionally harming monkeys. You'll probably get in more trouble for that than if you did it on like newborn
It
babies.
is crazy how close human beings are to pigs, though, as far as our organs are concerned, and our skin and stuff like that. We are very close to pigs, believe it or not. Bacon tastes delicious, by the way.
Their their organs.
Yes.
What
Even
pig organs do you eat regularly?
pig organs, Jason. We'd use them for organ transplant.
Ah, okay. Well, so anyway, yeah. Um, I you can definitely measure the effect that EMF has on the calcium channel. Calcium
Correct.
channel is ionic. It's like a stream of energy, um, and EMF is also a stream of energy. And here's the thing, though: human beings create our own EMF. Did you know that, John Brisson?
Yes, it is natural.
Yeah, we create quite a bit of it.
Just like the Earth does too. It's called lightning and a lot of other things. So.
You can like force lightning.
Yes. Human beings do generate EMF, obviously. I mean, we are electromagnetic beings, so, and, it only makes rational sense.
Yeah, so like you just have conflicting energy sources and there's going to be some attenuation. How much attenuation? Well, that depends on the frequency of the calcium channel and it depends on the frequency of the EMF and what their resonance values are. But some people create more EMF than others. So what class of people are going to create the most EMF? Well, that's going to be your athletes because EMF is created through the heart. And if you have a strong working heart, our EMF field is going to expand. And we can measure this and we can see this. And our EMF fields interact with one another. That's why we know when people are being disingenuous, because that's also why they think that we know when we can feel when we're being watched, is because we can kind of have some kind of sense of these EMF fields.
I thought it was psychic abilities.
I mean, I don't think so because I mean they've shown this. They've monitored body temperatures.
Sarcastic, Jason.
Oh, okay. Well, I did see the X-Men documentary, and some people do seem to have psychic powers.
Is it like that one song with Michael Jackson? I think it was Hathaway. I feel like someone's watching me.
Yeah,
that was
exactly like that.
Anyways, what is love?
So when like if you have a soldier and they monitor the soldier's body temperature, and then they have a sniper, when the sniper gets the soldier in its reticles, the soldier's body temperature will rise, even when he doesn't even know what's happening. And they can measure this. There's experiments that they've done on animals and human interactions. So yeah, if you're an athlete, you've got a good cardiovascular, lots of cardiovascular energy. You're going to create a larger EMF field that's going to protect you from EMF. So staying active is going to help with that. And I think that's one of the things that we forget about because people don't want to exercise. Like people don't want to get up and do stuff anymore.
I don't know. Maybe not sticking your cell phone up to your head for hours on end.
Yeah, and there's also like this movement that like exercise is bad and harmful. Like, where did this come from? I don't understand.
Well, there is the truth that over-exercise can have some negative benefits too if you are strictly religious about it.
Well, some people they don't want to exercise at all.
Well, that's bad.
Any amount of exercise is harmful.
That's not true. Well, I know better than that. Now you're just being sarcastic.
No, I'm not being sarcastic. Like some of these health experts are like, don't exercise because that's bad.
What? That doesn't make any sense.
But so you can put a cell phone up to your head. That's probably not good. You're going to get some attenuation from that. Maybe over time, it's going to cause problems.
You probably don't want to sleep right next to a 6.0 deeked phone because it's always constantly broadcasting, even if it's within the base, except in Europe, where if you do happen to put the phone in the base, it does stop broadcasting because they have eco deeked. But I don't even have actually a cordless phone in my house except for my cell phone. I try to keep that away from my body as much as possible. I think it's best to limit EMF as much as we can, but the only problem with doing that is it's everywhere. So unless you live in a radio frequency free zone like in Virginia, the top part of Virginia, where the government requires that to monitor space, you're pretty much out of luck.
Well, even, I mean, there's still going to be some EMF broadcasted there through
Of
AM.
course, there always will be. But I'm just saying that maybe we should do our best to reduce the amount of EMF that we come in contact that we can control, and not worry about what we cannot control.
That's probably smart advice. Other thing is light sources, and getting a lot of blue light through the eye. Overexposure to blue light, fluorescent lights, all that kind of stuff is going to break down DHA, and there's very high concentrations of DHA, which is
within the brain.
Yeah, it's an N3 terminal omega-3 fatty acid, which is essential, by the way. It's an essential fatty acid, and it's highly susceptible to light. And so it's going to break down if you look at blue light all the time, and body keeps a very high concentration of it in the eyes. In fact, the highest concentration of DHA in the human body is in the eyes. So you're breaking down DHA. DHA is, it's paramagnetic. And so because of the shape of the molecule, it can conduct electrons across the N3 terminal. So it does a very good job of transferring electrons. Electrons are energy, and they balance out the calcium channel. So calcium positive ions are flowing this way, and you can get the opposite current of electrons that are flowing in, which have the antioxidant effects, and they also create energy. A lot of times we think about the calcium channel and AMP, but we leave out the negative current that's also required. So if we're not getting enough fatty acid in our diet, and we're having too high exposure to blue light, that eventually is going to take its toll on the brain.
Correct, very much so.
But lipopolysaccharide, or LPS, is what happens when a bacteria bonds a polyol with a specific protein that interacts with our immune system. We call these endotoxin. And usually endotoxins are contained to the gut, and they just pass through the gut. And there's a lot of stuff that passes through the gut just with normal digestion that our immune system responds to, and different proteins are keyed in certain ways to trigger immune reactions, to trigger our interleukins. But the problem is when we have a leaky gut, or we have problems with our gut membrane, and things passing through the gut membrane into our bloodstream, and we get LPS leaking to our bloodstream, it's very problematic biosynthetically. Biosynthetically, what happens is that there is an enzyme that attaches LPS to cholesterol, and when the cholesterol is patched with the LPS, it distributes the cholesterol, not with the cholesterol, with a cholesterol containing protein. So usually LDL or VLDL, or it will become VLDL, which is the bad type of cholesterol. Well, they say the bad type of cholesterol. It's really not cholesterol at all. It's a protein that contains cholesterol molecules inside of it. So it's like a transport vehicle. So you've got this transport vehicle with all the cholesterol inside, and then LPS gets attached to it. So LPS gets attached to it. Well, it's going around, it's depositing cholesterol like it's supposed to into the cells. It's using cholesterol to repair certain things. Remember, cholesterols are just, bonded fatty acids, so they're being used all over the place. And with VLDL, usually it's trying to return a toxin back to the liver to be metabolized. But with the LPS attached to it, that can't happen. So usually it just gets attached someplace, like in our arteries, in our brain, and it starts to limit blood flow after a while.
Causing inflammation because the immune system starts trying to respond to it.
That's that's where we end up with ischemia or
Correct.
tissue damage and hypoxia.
And depending on what bacteria can get, put in other places as well throughout the body.
Yeah, so if you want to look at a substance in the body that we can directly measure is causing ischemia and the same exact things that are happening with Alzheimer's, LPS is the smoking gun.
Yep.
And you can say, oh, it's EMF, oh, it's aluminum, we're eating too many carbs, whatever. All that's, those are good theories, but if you want something that we can actually observe, that we can measure, observe, and reproduce the effects of, it's got to be LPS and endotoxin. So we talked about SIBO in the last live stream that we did. SIBO can cause leaky gut. What are some other factors that cause leaky gut?
Different type of dysbiosis or overgrowth. Some medications can cause more of leaky gut. So it doesn't always SIBO. It could be a viral disorder. Could be a parasite. Could be yeast overgrowth. Could be medications. Could be poor diet. Could be undigested proteins. The list goes on. It's a pretty big list of what generally can cause leaky gut.
So one of the protocols that's being recommended for Alzheimer's is like a very low carb diet, very high fat diet to produce more ketones, which is swell.
It's also going to reduce it's going to reduce overgrowth.
Yeah, it is going to reduce overgrowth, but it's also going to reduce the bacterial population in general.
Microbiome diversity too.
The microbiome is also part of the mechanism that creates such a strong minuscule.
Correct.
Or gut lining. It's like the mucousy substance that covers the epithelium.
Glucose is required, and it's to turn into N-acetylglucosamine.
Right, and it's not our use of the glucose; it's the glucose that the bacteria consume.
That's correct.
And there's a subspecies of bacteria that produce butyric acid.
Clostridium butyricum. I can't pronounce it, but yes.
Yeah, Clostridium butyricum. It requires glucose to thrive. So and there have been studies done on this, if you limit your carbohydrate intake, they die pretty quickly. So what some people do when they do like a ubiome thing, and they get a sample and they're like, oh man, I don't have enough of these guys. I'm probably going to end up with leaky gut. And they start taking a probiotic supplement.
It's not a good idea.
Yeah. There's two reasons why it's not a good idea. Number one, some of them aren't pure and you're getting pathogenic stuff mixed in with it, which happens a lot in the probiotic world, way more than most people think. And quality control is not good for a lot of these companies. And the second thing is, like, let's say you're going out and into the Sahara Desert and you're like, well, I know what the problem is in the Sahara Desert. It's not a rainforest. If there'd be a rainforest here, we'd get more rain. So you get a bunch of seeds from the rainforest and you start planting, rainforest trees. I'm not sure what kind of trees go in the rainforest, but you're going around the desert planting rainforest trees and you're like, I just solved everybody's problems. I just solved desertification. Way to go, Jason Hooper.
Good job.
You're the man.
Cloud seeding.
Of course the trees aren't going to grow because it's in the wrong environmental conditions. So if you're starving your bacteria, adding more of those bacteria is not going to do anything. Or it's not going
to grow.
I'm not going to say it's not going to do anything, but it's not going to have the desired result, which is strengthening the minuscule. So the best thing to do would be to strengthen it by eating the right kinds of foods. Now, you don't have to necessarily eat, you drink a lot of sugar or, do stuff. You can eat smart carbohydrates, and you can, if you're wanting to do a ketogenic diet, you can do refeeds and not skip your refeeds. When you do refeeds, you got to refeed smart and you got to feed enough so that you get this stuff going, or else you're going to end up with leaky gut. And
maybe eat some jasmine rice instead of pounding down some pizzas.
Yeah, there's other components in the pizza that are going to also negatively influence the gut.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe eat some jasmine rice. Eat some FODMAP vegetables and fruits during your refeed days. Maybe get in some sweet potatoes. Maybe some regular potatoes. Take off the skin. Stuff like that would be a good idea to help. Diversify some nuts. You know.
Yeah, that's good too. But I think one of the mistakes that a lot of people are making is that when they go on a very low carb diet, they consume polyols like
Oh yeah,
xylitol,
that's not good.
erythritol. That doesn't mix very well. I wrote an article
Yeah.
about this on Fix Your Gut on the blog about this combination. And remember the lipopolysaccharide LPS, the polysaccharide that they're referring to just happens to be a polyol. So if you're eating a polyol rich, or if you're eating a lot of polyols, and a lot of these sugar alcohols are polyols. In fact, all of them are. But I don't know. Is sorbitol considered a polyol?
Yes, it
I think
is.
it is. Yeah.
It is.
Um,
So you might not want to be drinking a lot of prune juice. So.
yeah. Well, it's also made. It's also made through the phospho-6 pathway too. But let's not get into that. But yeah, so you're basically feeding those bacteria one of the required ingredients that they need that's biologically conserved to create LPS, and that's a terrible combo. So definitely avoid polyols.
That's usually by reducing FODMAPs, does help out. Even though I'm starting to think that some people should do a FODMAP diet where it's 3 days, 2 days on the diet, 1 day off, sans gluten.
That makes sense because you don't want to kill everything.
Correct.
I think they should also get a feeling of where the infection is and trying to pick the right.
Yeah, well, Jason and I are working on that. We're definitely trying to come up with some sort of upper gut diet that would counteract, someone having an H. pylori infection or a Campylobacter infection in the upper gut.
Yeah. I've been getting behind on my blog posting with the newborn. It's hard. I sit down at my computer and I start researching, and I'm like, this is not going well. And I don't know. I've thrown away 3 topics already. I wanted to write about stuff that I thought I knew the answers to, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to blow the lid off this. And it turned out to be wrong. So
well, I got more consistent blog articles coming out soon. Next week, I'm going to have an article out on H. pylori. So, is it the world's worst thing in the world, or is it beneficial? Stay tuned.
Yeah, I'm also going to post my review of AO Plus. I've finished with that protocol as well, and I'm going to post the results that I had. I talked about it a little bit on one of the live streams. I forget which one.
But is LPS one of the most common causes of diseases and autoimmune conditions, Jason? I believe so.
The thing is, like, we can show LPS. We can show that LPS causes insulin resistance, leading to type 2 diabetes. So, and we can see we can actually run LPS through the system and see what it's doing. We can see its effects on heart disease. We can see, like, we can measure the damage that it's doing. It's not one of the great mysteries of life. So I would think that if you're trying to avoid Alzheimer's, just have a healthy gut barrier. Keep your gut happy. Try not to get constipated, and if you do get constipated, adjust your diet. Try to make it to where you're not anymore, because it could have some long-term negative long-term consequences.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you like that. Is it like Klebsiella, for example, being gram negative, being able to get into the joints, causing rheumatoid arthritis, or in the spine causing alkalizing spondylitis? Is it directly damaged from these bacteria and the LPSs that they produce?
Yeah, it is, and we can measure it. We can look at it. We can see.
No. You know me. I honestly believe that to be true, but science still wants to think it's an autoimmune condition.
Well, you could call it an autoimmune condition also.
I call it an infection, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the, how do I explain this? It creates a response from the immune system because it activates interleukins that try to fight LPS as a, that it tries to fight LPS, but because of the protein side of the molecule like it creates an immune response, but the body's response to it seems to be just to attach it to LDL.
Correct. I mean, you can get infections too from gram-positive bacteria also, obviously,
Like blood infections.
You can get systemic infections like MAP is a gram-positive bacteria.
Yeah. I think one of the problems with research right now is that the researchers are only associating LPS with sepsis, and they're not looking at it in a non-septic person,
Yeah.
where we have basically like we don't have like a full-blown like hole in our intestines spewing out junk into our bloodstream. They just have like
it's like a perforation, like a slow trickling perforation of infection.
Yeah, like a slow leak as opposed to like a gushing wound, and so you're getting micro doses of it instead of
kind of like a
heavy doses of it. But a lot of the studies on the heavy doses of LPS, that's that'll shut down your heart pretty quick.
Those people dying straight from, the heart's completely shutting down. I mean.
Well, so we have a question from Squiggy in the chat. This chat, I think, is going to be a work in progress to get this chat going. But when I was envisioning the Fix Your Gut live stream, this is what I wanted to do first, just to kind of do something different. I wanted to have a chat associated with it so that we could interact with people instead of just having one direction communication. You guys could communicate back with us in real time. So if you're listening to this over YouTube and you can make it to our next live stream, we're going to do this again. Eventually, our webmaster is looking into hosting our own IRC server on the website to where we have control over it, and we can have mods that kick people if they're spammy or whatever. I don't know. We're not having that problem right now, obviously. And once I get this new computer set up, we can actually show the chat streaming like to this side of the screen, or I guess it'll be this side of the screen. I forget because my camera's backwards from you guys. But we'll get it up on the screen and stuff. We'll be able to show graphics and how to do stuff. But if you don't have an IRC client, download MIRC, or there's some like web-based clients too. It's pretty easy to use. It'll remind you of the 90s. There's some like awesome Unix commands like /join #room or whatever. But anyway, the question that Squiggy has is, Squiggy wants to know the benefits of consuming collagen protein before bed and the overall health of collagen.
I can say two quick things, and of course I know you got a good answer for this.
Okay.
Glycine improves sleep quality, and glycine is also one of those magical components, which I'm going to be writing about for Fix Your Gut in a multi-part series that's required for proper gut integrity. All right, you can go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I'll tag onto that. Like glycine is an amino acid. I believe collagen, off the top of my head, I think collagen is like 40% glycine.
It's very high in glycine.
You'll have to fact check me, Squiggy. I'm pretty sure it's 40% high in glycine. Glycine is an amino acid that can eventually convert to GABA, and it can be relaxing. It can be relaxing to the nervous system. The other cool thing about collagen is that it can be prebiotic, especially Correct. With stuff like Dave's upgraded collagen product is collagen peptides. So they are, I think, 3 to 4 amino acid chains. It's been pre-digested. Usually when you digest, like if you digest bone broth, you're getting much larger proteins. But with Dave's stuff, it's been partially digested. So you're getting like 3 to 4 aminos at a time. And these are very prebiotic in the gut. So there's bacteria in the gut that thrive on these polypeptides, the tripeptides and polypeptides, and they like them. And they're beneficial bacteria for your gut.
But doesn't glycine also downregulate inflammatory responses? Like glutamine speeds up healing and stuff like that. Helps prevent LPS damage and reducing inflammatory cytokines, which is one reason why it's very important for the gut barrier.
Absolutely. There's another hack that if you mix L-tryptophan with collagen, it knocks you out. If you've never tried it, maybe try it. Just go easy on the tryptophan because it really, I mean, it really has a profound effect. Have you ever tried that, John?
No, I have not. Not personally. I do take collagen every so often. It's delicious.
I'm going to do that tonight just for fun. The only thing is, though, if you do too much, like if I do too much of that, I'm groggy the next day, and I don't want to be groggy the next day.
But I mean, I've heard some stories too that glycine. I've heard, well, not stories. I've read some research too that glycine might help with fructose malabsorption by helping with enterocytes, piggyback it into the liver. You know, because I mean, when we're talking about what your gut mucosal barrier is made out of, I mentioned N-acetylglucosamine earlier. Now there's glutamine, butyrate, and glycine, of course, is very, very important too.
Yeah. The reason why tryptophan works so well in collagen is because tryptophan's usually hydrophobic, but when collagen does not have any tryptophan in it, does not contain that amino acid.
It's not a complete amino acid, you know.
Doesn't have a complete amino acid profile.
Correct.
So it allows, because of the shapes of the proteins in collagen, it allows the tryptophan to be water soluble, and so it mixes well.
So it would increase melatonin, right?
Yeah. Well, melatonin and serotonin. Yeah.
Correct. It would increase both, but it's pretty much a way of, because L-tryptophan is broken down and assimilated into the gut barrier, you know, and stuff like that. So it's kind of a way of piggybacking it or sneaking it, you know, in for proper serotonin and melatonin production. Correct.
Yeah, that's right. Well, hey, that's all the time we got, guys, for the Fix Your Gut live stream. I appreciate everybody watching, and tune in for the next one.
Take care, everybody.